I need to tell you something before it's too late. What I'm about to describe will make you question everything you've been taught about God, Jesus, and reality itself. Last night, I didn't just sleep. I disappeared. My body stayed in bed. But my mind, my soul, was taken somewhere else, somewhere I cannot fully describe without risking disbelief. It wasn't a dream. I saw the machinery of existence, and a being not of this world guided me through it. I tried to scream, tried to wake myself, but I realized with terror and awe that I was already awake, conscious in a realm humans are never meant to see. And then he appeared, tall, luminous, impossibly calm, with eyes that seemed to read the very architecture of my soul. "Fedrick," he said, not with a voice, but with a certainty that pierced me deeper than any sermon. "You are about to witness what humanity cannot comprehend." That was the moment I understood. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is the engine of the universe, and tonight I was about to see how it runs. Fedrick had always considered himself an ordinary man, a 59-year-old history teacher living in rural Texas, steeped in routine and logic, devoted to his faith yet unaware of the hidden dimensions around him. But on this night, the ordinary shattered. As his eyes closed, expecting the familiar hazy drift into dreamlike images, a strange pull gripped him, lifting his consciousness from the familiar weight of flesh and muscle. He felt the tug of a greater current, a force beyond understanding, and his mind expanded into a space where time, space, and gravity had no meaning. And then he saw him, the alien being, though alien, barely described the being's presence. He was serene, almost holy, with a light that illuminated without burning, and an intelligence that was both incomprehensible and intimately familiar. He extended what could have been a hand, or perhaps it was just a gesture of will, and Fedrick realized he was being shown the truth of human existence during sleep. His consciousness was detached nightly, entering a shared, non-physical plane, a realm not of imagination but of reality, where advanced beings, what humans might call angels perhaps, performed maintenance on the strands of life. Every sorrow, every regret, every unfulfilled desire was carefully examined, repaired, and reordered. Fedrick's own memories swirled around him, displayed not like images but as living threads being mended. And then he noticed something even stranger. Flashes of scripture, parables, moments in the life of Jesus he had read about all his life. But here they weren't just stories, they were templates, nodes of energy that resonated in the cosmos, guiding consciousness like a celestial map. The alien gestured to these threads, and he felt a pulse, a rhythm. Humans were not passive in this process. Their souls were active participants, unknowingly contributing to a cosmic plan, their dreams mere static as consciousness returned to the physical world. Fedrick's heart raced. He realized that what he had always called dreams were the byproducts of a much larger system, a nightly recalibration of timelines, memories, and probabilities designed to keep humanity aligned with a divine order. And yet, he sensed something else. A revelation yet to come. Something the alien was withholding until he was ready to truly understand. The question burned in his mind. If sleep is maintenance, if dreams are illusions masking cosmic engineering, what had humanity been missing all along, and why was he, the most ordinary of men, chosen to see it? As he floated in that radiant void, suspended between terror and awe, the first hints of an answer brushed against him. But the alien did not reveal it, only smiled, and the unspoken promise hung like a pulse in the air. Tonight, Fedrick would witness the unseen workings of creation itself, and nothing would ever be the same. Fedrick felt himself falling through a void that was neither darkness nor light, but a place in between, a liminal space where every thought he had ever held seemed to float around him like suspended glass orbs, reflecting lives he had lived, lives he had imagined, and lives he had never dared to dream. The alien followed silently, his presence comforting yet imposing, and every movement of the being seemed to ripple across the void, altering it subtly, like a musician plucking invisible strings of reality. As Fedrick's consciousness adjusted to the new realm, he began to see patterns emerging in the orbs, threads connecting memories to choices, choices to probabilities, probabilities to events that had not yet happened. It was overwhelming, yet there was a rhythm to it, a sense that everything had a place, a purpose, a divine architecture beyond human comprehension. He remembered the nights he had prayed for clarity, for guidance, for forgiveness, and realized that those prayers had always been answered here, in this plane. Not in the way he had expected, but as subtle recalibrations that prepared him for the unfolding of reality. The alien extended what seemed like a limb, though it was difficult to define, and with it traced a series of glowing lines connecting one human consciousness to another, one event to another, one sin to redemption. Fedrick could see the subtle hand of providence in action, and yet it was mechanical, almost scientific, but infused with an undeniable love and purpose. Then, without warning, a memory surfaced, a flash of a long-forgotten sermon he had heard as a child, words about the kingdom of God being within him, about the spirit that transcends the flesh, and suddenly it clicked. Sleep was the gateway. Humans had always believed the night was a time of rest, a pause in existence, but the alien showed him it was a time of active divine engagement, a nightly mission in which consciousness departed the body to repair timelines, cleanse emotional wounds, and realign the soul with its ultimate path. He saw with an intensity that burned into his mind moments of people's lives being corrected, not erased, not punished, but healed, threads of memory untangled, probabilities adjusted to steer humanity toward lessons it had yet to learn. And then came the revelation that made his stomach turn and his heart ache. Dreams were not visions, not omens, not messages from God in the way people imagined. They were the static, the residue, the visual noise generated as consciousness re-entered the physical simulation, the human body returning to its limited perception after nights in a plane designed for cosmic maintenance. Fedrick shivered, realizing that what he had dismissed as trivial, fantastical, or meaningless, his own dreams, the recurring visions of places he had never been, were actually glimpses, fragments of the enormous work carried out by unseen hands every night. He wanted to speak, to ask why this knowledge had been hidden from humanity for millennia, but the alien's gaze held him in check, patient and infinite. Then, like a beacon, a light appeared ahead, swirling and expanding, showing not just one thread, but countless threads intersecting, the history of civilizations, the rise and fall of kings, the silent workings of prophets, the prayers of countless believers across centuries. Fedrick's mind reeled as he recognized figures he had read about in the Bible, moments of Jesus walking among men, miracles that had been documented yet misunderstood. And suddenly he understood something even more profound. Sleep was how prophets received visions, how saints communicated with God, how the human soul aligned with divine timing. It was not a metaphor, it was a literal, structural element of reality. The alien paused, And in that pause, Fedrick felt the gravity of his own existence as if for the first time. His regrets, his fears, the weight of decades pressed against him. Yet the alien's presence infused him with a serenity that was almost unbearable, a love that transcended explanation. Then the being showed him the first glimpses of other humans, floating in the same luminous plane, their consciousness gently untethered, being repaired, healed, and recalibrated. Some were unaware, drifting in fear or confusion. Others radiated a calm and understanding that seemed almost unnatural. Fedrick wanted to ask who chose what path for who decided the measure of each soul, but the alien only gestured for him to watch. And as he did, he saw moments of mercy. Timelines shifted subtly to prevent tragedy, emotional wounds soothed before they fully manifested, memories realigned to provide lessons without despair. Every night, this process occurred for every human, yet no one remembered it consciously, only as dreams, as flashes of memory, as intuition that seemed to come from nowhere. The alien's eyes met Fedrick's again, and this time the message was clear. He was being prepared to see the next layer, the layer that humans could not yet comprehend. It was one thing to witness personal healing. It was another to witness the very threads of history being guided, reality itself being updated like an invisible ledger in the hands of divine mechanics. And then the alien did something Fedrick could not anticipate. He projected a vision of the future, a world shaped by these nightly interventions, showing how humanity's choices, influenced by these unseen recalibrations, would ripple outward, creating consequences that spanned decades. Fedrick felt awe and terror at the same time, realizing that free will and divine order were not enemies, but collaborators, intertwined in ways humans had always sensed but never understood. And then came a question, one the alien did not answer, but let hang in the space between them. If sleep is maintenance, if consciousness leaves the body nightly to repair reality itself, then what of those who never awaken fully, those who resist or fear this process? Fedrick felt the edges of his understanding stretch to breaking, realizing that knowledge came with responsibility. And as he floated in that silent, infinite plane, he knew this was only the beginning. There were layers still hidden, revelations yet to come, truths about salvation, Jesus, and humanity's cosmic purpose that he could barely imagine. The alien extended his hand toward a light that pulsed like a heartbeat, a vision of history and prophecy intertwined, and Fedrick understood in a way that would haunt him forever. The night, the sleep, the dreams, everything he had dismissed as ordinary, was the closest humans came to touching the machinery of God. And as he prepared to follow the alien deeper, a shiver ran through him. Something waited ahead. Something monumental, something that would force him to see not just the repair of reality, but the shaping of destiny itself. Fedrick's mind reeled as he followed the alien through a landscape that was neither sky nor ground, but a luminous web of flowing light, a place where time had no grip, and every thought felt like it could bend reality. The threads of human consciousness stretched out before him like rivers of energy, each one carrying memories, emotions, and decisions. And he saw how they converged and diverged with purpose, some subtly altered, others profoundly reshaped. He realized that every choice he had ever made, every path he had walked, was being observed and guided by forces far beyond human comprehension, yet not with malice, only with a precise, meticulous care that felt infinitely loving. The alien stopped before a vast expanse of radiant lines, and Fedrick saw humans floating like vessels within the light, some unconscious, some partially aware, all undergoing the nightly process he had begun to understand: timeline repair, emotional cleansing, probability adjustment. He wanted to ask questions: why them? Why now? Why him? But the alien only beckoned him to look closer. He drifted toward a young woman, no more than 20, who wept silently as memories of betrayal and fear were gently untangled, and then he saw a man in the midst of what appeared to be a nightmare. Yet as the alien touched the thread connecting his consciousness, the man's fear dissolved, replaced by clarity and understanding. Fedrick realized with awe that sleep was the mechanism through which God's mercy could manifest, the quiet operation of grace that humans never consciously witnessed. And then the alien turned to him, and for the first time, Fedrick felt the weight of direct revelation. This is why prophets dreamed, why saints were visited, why Jesus himself withdrew to pray and fast. Sleep is the doorway, the conduit for divine and cosmic alignment. As he absorbed the words, visions began to cascade around him: Abraham seeing the stars, Daniel interpreting dreams, Mary kneeling in prayer, Jesus walking alone at night in the desert, every moment infused with the same luminous threads he now beheld. It was overwhelming, the depth of connection, the beauty of intention behind every seemingly random event, and Fedrick's chest ached as he realized how much humans had misunderstood the language of the spirit. Dreams were never meant to be literal. They were the interface, the static visual translation of consciousness reintegrating into the physical vessel. And yet there was more. The alien extended what could only be described as a projection of probability, showing Fedrick multiple timelines branching from single events, some corrected, others left to unfold naturally, all harmonized within a greater design that humans called free will. Fedrick felt awe, fear, and humility in equal measure, knowing that this was not simply about his own life, but about the course of humanity shaped in ways invisible to the mortal eye. Then, without warning, the alien allowed him to experience his own nightly departures. He saw himself lifted from his bed, his consciousness drifting toward the luminous plane, his thoughts, regrets, and fears being gently examined, reordered, and cleansed. He felt love and understanding flow into his own life from forces he could not name, and it struck him with the force of revelation. This was the process through which God prepared each soul, through which Jesus' promise of renewal was enacted nightly, unseen but faithful. Fedrick's eyes, or whatever passed for them in this state, widened as he glimpsed the machinery of healing and redemption in action, the invisible architecture of mercy repairing fractures in memory and spirit. Yet the alien held back the deepest truth, a layer of revelation Fedrick could sense but not yet touch. Soon, the being said, you will see what even prophets could only glimpse, what dreams can never fully convey. You will see how humanity's purpose is orchestrated across dimensions, through sleep, faith, and choice. A chill ran through Fedrick, the knowledge that he was being prepared for a vision beyond comprehension, and he realized that the fear humans felt of the unknown was insignificant compared to the grandeur of the truth. Then he was shown a vision of collective humanity, millions of consciousnesses interacting in the luminous plane, threads of emotion and thought weaving together, repairing not only individual lives but the shared reality of the planet, subtle adjustments cascading across generations. The alien explained, not in words but in pure awareness, that sleep was how the cosmos healed itself, how reality maintained balance, how divine design ensured that suffering, learning, and growth occurred without destruction of the whole. Fedrick's heart ached as he saw the delicate interplay of mercy and correction, as if every human action, forgiven or uncorrected, was part of a vast, loving pattern beyond his comprehension. And yet there was a tension, a question that pulsed like a heartbeat across the luminous expanse. If humanity depended on this nightly maintenance, what of those who ignored their spiritual growth, who resisted divine correction? Fedrick felt a pang of dread, realizing that choice carried weight not only in waking life but in this realm, and that ignorance or fear could hinder the cosmic process. The alien guided him deeper into the plane, past threads of sorrow being mended, past clusters of consciousness undergoing emotional realignment, and towards something brighter, more concentrated, a nexus of energy that seemed alive, pulsing with intention. Here Fedrick glimpsed visions of Jesus, not as stories in Scripture, but as radiant consciousness interacting with the flow of human souls, touching threads, infusing love and guidance directly into the mechanisms of reality itself. He felt a humility so profound it left him breathless. Humanity had always been guided, protected, and healed in ways it could not perceive, and yet it remained responsible for its choices, co-creators with the divine machinery in a dance of free will and grace. And then the alien paused before a thread unlike any other, flickering with urgency, showing an event yet to come, a choice yet to be made, something that would ripple into history with consequences Fedrick could barely imagine. He wanted to reach, to understand, to intervene, but the alien shook its head gently, and he realized the lesson. Even in this luminous plane, understanding did not equate to control. He had been shown mercy, clarity, and insight, yet the final threads of destiny were still unwritten, waiting for humanity to act. A sense of awe and purpose overwhelmed him, and for the first time, Fedrick understood the depth of faith. Belief was not ignorance, but awareness of a structure so vast, so luminous, and so deliberate that humans could only glimpse fragments even in sleep. The alien's eyes, infinite yet tender, met his again, and Fedrick felt a pulse of anticipation, as if the next revelation would finally answer the questions burning inside him. What is the true role of Jesus in this cosmic maintenance? How do humans participate consciously? And what secret lay beyond the nightly repairs, hidden from all but those who dared to awaken fully? The air, or whatever passed for air in this place, seemed to hum with the weight of truth, and Fedrick knew with absolute certainty that the next moment would alter everything he believed, and that there was no turning back. As Fedrick followed the alien deeper into the luminous plane, a shift occurred, subtle at first, like a tremor beneath the surface of reality, and then undeniable. He was no longer merely observing, but beginning to participate. Threads of consciousness that had floated like independent rivers now brushed against his own, and he felt an unfamiliar sense of power, tempered by awe, coursing through him. The alien guided him toward a cluster of golden light where he saw Jesus, not as a figure bound by flesh, but as radiant awareness, luminous and infinite, moving among human threads with gentle authority, touching timelines and correcting fractures with a touch that seemed at once mechanical and profoundly loving. Fedrick felt tears prick his eyes as he realized that every act of kindness, every prayer whispered in secret, every moment of faith was not lost, but recorded and woven into the very fabric of reality by forces humans could scarcely imagine. The alien gestured, and Fedrick felt himself drawn into a vision, his consciousness merging with another human's, allowing him to experience a life he had never lived, a girl who had suffered betrayal, whose heart had been fractured by cruelty and fear. He felt the alien's power flow through him, repairing the wounds, realigning memories, restoring hope. And for the first time, he understood the profound intimacy of divine intervention. Dreams, he realized, were the residues of these operations, the visual static humans perceived as their consciousness returned to the body, pale echoes of the immense healing and correction that occurred nightly. And yet, even as he marveled, a shadow of tension rippled through the luminous plane. Not all humans were fully compliant with this process, and some threads resisted, twisted by fear, anger, or disbelief. Fedrick sensed the gravity of choice in ways he had never understood. Free will was not abandoned in sleep. It was tested, exercised, and honored, even as the cosmic machinery labored to maintain balance. Then the alien drew him to a central nexus, a place of concentrated energy that pulsed like a living heartbeat. And Fedrick saw countless threads converging there, some bright and steady, others flickering or frayed. Jesus moved among them, and he understood that even the sun's work was facilitated by this nightly maintenance, the body of humanity repaired, healed, and readied for each new day, the soul nourished, the heart purified. Fedrick wanted to ask why humans had been kept ignorant of this mechanism, why faith had been shrouded in mystery, but the alien's presence communicated patience and trust. Knowledge without readiness could be dangerous. Revelation required preparation. Then, as he watched, he saw the subtle interplay of probability and mercy. Events that would have led to disaster subtly shifted, choices nudged toward compassion, moments of divine timing adjusted with precision. It was terrifying and beautiful. The universe itself was alive with love, yet humans believed in chaos, in random chance, in suffering without reason. Fedrick's heart swelled as he realized that Jesus' promise of salvation was not limited to a single act or moment in history, but lived and breathed every night in the mechanics of consciousness. Every soul that slept participated, knowingly or not, in this cosmic redemption. And then the alien allowed him a glimpse of something he could barely comprehend. The potential of conscious participation. He saw humans who had learned to awaken within sleep, who navigated the luminous plane with awareness, guiding threads, assisting in healing, glimpsing the design behind existence. Fedrick felt a surge of longing and fear. Could he, an ordinary man, ever reach that level of awareness? The alien's gaze conveyed both challenge and encouragement. Yes, but only if he surrendered fully, embraced humility, and trusted the process. Then came a question that cut through him like a blade. If sleep was so vital to the maintenance of reality, why had humanity forgotten its sacred purpose? The alien offered no answer, only a vision. Humans in prayer, in meditation, in devotion, unknowingly aligning themselves with the process, preparing their own consciousness to participate, yet unaware of the depth of the work they were doing. Fedrick felt a weight of responsibility he had never known, understanding that faith was not passive. It was an active alignment with a divine plan, reinforced nightly through sleep, healing, and recalibration. And then he was shown the edges of human limitation, threads that resisted, suffering unhealed, choices uncorrected, yet even here there was hope, because the process was patient, iterative, continuous. Fedrick saw Jesus moving among these resistant threads, radiating love that penetrated denial and fear, and he realized with a jolt, divine intervention is constant, not miraculous in spectacle, but meticulous, tender, persistent. He began to see patterns he had never recognized, Kabbalah's teachings of dreams as spiritual pathways, the Hindu concept of Lila as cosmic play, Aboriginal dream time, all reflections, fragments, echoes of the same process he now witnessed firsthand. Humanity had always sensed the truth, misinterpreted it, yet it had always been alive beneath the surface of awareness. Fedrick felt a shift within himself, a pulse of energy that was both terrifying and exhilarating. The alien allowed him to see his own life from above, every regret, every unfulfilled desire, every prayer and act of faith displayed as threads being repaired, recalibrated, rearranged. And then he realized that his own nightly sleep had been a rehearsal for this awareness, the universe preparing him to witness deeper truths, to awaken within sleep, to participate consciously in what humans called divine will. A surge of gratitude, humility, and awe washed over him, yet the alien's gaze hinted at something more, something he could not yet see, but would soon confront. And then came the first hint of urgency. The threads of the future, glowing faintly in a hue unfamiliar, suggested a choice approaching that would not wait. A moment in which the alignment of humanity's actions and consciousness could alter events in profound ways. Fedrick's breath caught, the weight of revelation pressing on him. And he knew that what he would learn next would not only reveal the mechanics of sleep and salvation, but the hidden currents shaping the destiny of generations. The alien extended his hand, and without touching him, the air shimmered, threads vibrated, and Fedrick understood the promise, the warning, and the preparation. He was being guided to see, to know, to awaken, and soon he would face the truth, not just of sleep, not just of divine mechanics, but of what humanity was truly capable of when conscious and aligned. And as the luminous plane pulsed with infinite potential, he felt the pull toward the next revelation, toward the visions that would reshape his faith, his understanding, and perhaps the way he walked in the world forever. Fedrick felt a surge of awareness as he moved alongside the alien through the ever-shifting lattice of consciousness, a luminous expanse that defied the logic of waking life, where every human thread vibrated with purpose and potential, and every interaction rippled outward into the vast tapestry of existence. He realized with a shiver that he was no longer merely a witness. The alien was teaching him how to navigate, how to observe without interfering, yet also how to perceive the delicate balance of cause and effect that governed both the sleeping and waking worlds. Threads pulsed with energy, some strong and clear, others flickering, tangled by human fear, anger, or doubt. The alien gestured, and Fedrick felt a gentle pull toward a set of threads that glowed with urgency, displaying events not yet unfolded, moments in which choices would determine far-reaching consequences. He understood now that these threads were not simply metaphors, they were reality itself, the unseen architecture of time, memory, and human experience, repaired nightly through sleep, yet always subject to the free will of those living within it. Then, like a spark illuminating darkness, he saw a vision of Jesus moving through these threads, not confined to history, not bound by time, but present, radiant, orchestrating healing, guiding souls, and gently correcting misalignments. Fedrick's chest tightened as he realized that the sun's work was not distant or symbolic. It was active, meticulous, alive in ways humanity had never perceived. The alien guided him closer, and he witnessed moments of profound mercy, a child spared trauma, a mother reassured in the night, a broken marriage subtly realigned so that hope could survive. Each act was precise, deliberate, and imbued with love, and Fedrick felt a weight of humility unlike anything he had known. He wanted to cry, to shout, to fall to his knees, but the alien's presence reminded him that observation required stillness, that understanding came before action. Then he glimpsed the process in himself, his own nightly departures from the physical world, his consciousness entering this luminous plane, his thoughts, regrets, and memories gently repaired, restructured, and aligned. It was terrifying and beautiful. He had been touched by divine order each night, without knowing, every prayer answered, every fear mitigated, every lesson calibrated to guide him forward in life. And yet there was more, something hidden, something the alien had promised but not yet revealed. The being gestured, and Fedrick's awareness expanded, revealing layers of reality where entire civilizations' threads were intertwined, decisions of leaders, moments of compassion and cruelty, all gently influenced in subtle ways by the nightly mechanics he was now witnessing. He saw probability being recalculated not in a cold mathematical sense, but as a living conscious orchestration, a repair of possibility itself. Then a flicker drew his attention, a single thread, vibrating with instability, radiating tension across countless others. Fedrick followed it and saw a man unconscious in his bed, experiencing what humans would call a nightmare. Yet it was more. A misalignment in his timeline, a moment where unhealed trauma threatened to ripple into the waking world. The alien extended a form of energy, and Fedrick watched as the thread was carefully adjusted, memories realigned, emotional wounds soothed, and hope restored. The process was swift, precise, and loving, and Fedrick felt awe, realizing that sleep was not rest, it was maintenance, the mechanism through which God's mercy was delivered to humanity nightly. And then the alien showed him something he could barely comprehend. Moments where multiple threads intersected, converging in what looked like chaos but was, in fact, carefully orchestrated, creating conditions for prophecy, miracles, and spiritual awakening. Fedrick's mind raced as he recognized patterns he had studied in theology, history, and mysticism, parables, dream visions, even sacred rituals interwoven with this cosmic process. Human faith, he realized, had always been aligned with the mechanics of sleep and consciousness. Prophets, saints, and mystics had glimpsed these threads, receiving visions not by chance, but because their souls were momentarily attuned to the machinery of the cosmos. And then came the shock. The alien allowed him to peer into the future, not in a vague or symbolic way, but as a living, unfolding map of probabilities, showing the subtle influence of nightly repairs on events yet to come. Wars were softened, disasters averted, hearts realigned, choices nudged toward compassion, all in a hidden, quiet rhythm humans called the flow of life. Fedrick felt overwhelmed by the weight of understanding, the gravity of what he was witnessing. The universe was far more ordered than humans imagined, yet order existed alongside free will, chance, and struggle. And then the alien brought him closer to a cluster of threads, glowing brighter than the rest, each vibrating with concentrated potential. Here, Fedrick realized, were the souls of those who had learned to awaken during sleep, those who participated consciously in the nightly repair of reality. He saw humans guiding threads, assisting in healing, observing the dance of cause and effect with clarity and humility, their souls aligned with divine will, yet exercising free choice. The vision filled him with longing and fear. Could he ever reach such awareness? The alien conveyed encouragement and patience, showing him that the journey was gradual, requiring humility, trust, and surrender. And then a new revelation. The alien allowed him to witness the role of Jesus not just in individual repair, but in the coordination of the cosmos. Moving through threads with radiant consciousness, touching lives and timelines, his influence subtle but absolute, the sun's love, manifesting not as spectacle, but as precise intervention in the machinery of reality. Fedrick felt his heart ache with awe and gratitude, realizing that salvation was not a single historical act, but a living, breathing process enacted nightly in ways humans could barely perceive. Yet the alien withheld the deepest truth still, teasing it like a heartbeat just beyond his grasp, a secret about humanity's conscious participation, the mechanics of awakening within sleep, and a thread of destiny yet to be touched. And then, as the threads pulsed with infinite energy, the alien gestured to the horizon of this luminous plane, hinting at what was coming. The ultimate revelation that would show Fedrick not just the mechanics of sleep, not just the process of salvation, but the hidden architecture of reality itself, and the choices humanity would face in the days, months, and years ahead. A tremor of anticipation ran through him, the promise of cosmic understanding mingling with fear, awe, and wonder, and he knew without doubt that nothing he had ever believed about faith, God, or life would remain the same once he witnessed the next layer of truth. And the last thing he felt before the vision shifted again was a pulse of certainty, deep and radiant. He was being prepared, carefully and tenderly, to awaken fully within the sleep realm, to see the invisible mechanics of divine design, and to glimpse the destiny of humanity itself. Fedrick felt himself drawn forward, his consciousness guided by the alien as threads of human experience stretched infinitely in all directions, some glowing brightly, others flickering with uncertainty, yet all pulsing with the same rhythm of purpose and divine order. For the first time he sensed that he could influence them, not with force, but with awareness, with intention, shaped by humility and understanding. The alien's presence beside him was steady and reassuring, a silent teacher, showing him how to observe without interfering too soon, how to feel without overwhelming, how to discern the intricate weave of cause, effect, and grace. As he floated closer to a cluster of vibrant threads, he saw scenes of heartbreak, lives fractured by betrayal and loss. Yet he also saw the subtle corrections being applied, moments of intervention so precise that pain was softened, hope restored, and choices realigned toward compassion. Jesus moved among them, radiant and infinite, his presence not constrained by time or space, touching hearts, realigning timelines, and infusing the mechanics of reality with an energy that was at once personal and cosmic. Fedrick's chest tightened as he realized the enormity of the work being done nightly. Sleep was not merely rest, it was the engine of mercy, the machinery through which God repaired the world, one consciousness at a time. And then the alien allowed him to witness something new, humans consciously awakening within this plane, moving alongside the threads, guiding repair, observing the flow of events with clarity, and participating in ways that were subtle yet profoundly meaningful. Fedrick felt a mix of awe and trepidation. Could he, a man who had lived an ordinary life, ever reach such awareness? The alien's gaze communicated patience and promise, showing him that readiness, humility, and trust were required. As he drifted among the threads, he saw timelines being rewritten with delicate precision, conflicts averted before they fully unfolded, emotional wounds healed before despair could take root, probabilities recalibrated to create moments of mercy, revelation, and spiritual awakening. Dreams, he understood, were the residue of this process, visual static created as consciousness re-entered the physical body, pale echoes of the divine work occurring beyond perception. And then he saw the ripple effect. A child spared trauma grew into an adult who would choose compassion. A failing relationship repaired in subtle ways became a source of healing for a family. A leader's misjudgment subtly nudged toward justice altered the course of nations. Fedrick felt a profound sense of responsibility wash over him, understanding that humans were co-creators in this process, yet largely unaware. Yet he was being prepared to awaken fully, to witness consciously, to participate deliberately. The alien guided him toward a nexus of threads pulsating with urgency, and Fedrick felt the weight of destiny pressing against him. Here he saw events that could not wait, decisions that would reverberate far beyond the immediate moment, and he sensed the gravity of what humanity was being asked to do. The alien showed him Jesus moving deliberately among these threads, his presence coordinating the flow of mercy, love, and guidance, ensuring that free will remained intact while divine intention was subtly applied. Fedrick felt tears prick his eyes as he realized the intimacy of God's involvement, the precision with which love operated, the patience that allowed humans to stumble, learn, and grow, while still steering the course of destiny toward hope. And then the alien revealed a new layer, something Fedrick could barely grasp. The threads of the future were not static. They could be influenced, expanded, or aligned. And humans who learned to awaken within sleep could actively participate in shaping them. He saw humans, luminous and aware, moving alongside the threads, guiding, repairing, witnessing, understanding, and he felt both longing and fear. Could he reach this level? Could he become conscious in a realm so vast, so delicate, so sacred? The alien did not answer, only guided him toward a vision that took his breath away. A cascade of timelines converging, diverging, bending toward outcomes that balanced mercy, justice, and love, all orchestrated through the nightly process of sleep, consciousness departure, and recalibration. Fedrick saw choices being corrected, probabilities realigned, souls healed, yet he also saw resistance. Fear, denial, ignorance, human stubbornness, creating knots that had to be gently untangled. And he understood. This was the reason prophets dreamed, why saints meditated, why Jesus withdrew to pray. Humanity had always glimpsed this plane indirectly, received visions, and interpreted them as dreams, revelations, or divine encounters, never realizing that the mechanics were ongoing, meticulous, and universal. The alien's presence beside him pulsed with encouragement, and Fedrick felt the first spark of active participation within himself. He moved toward a thread that flickered with instability, a young man experiencing emotional trauma. And with the alien's guidance, he felt a gentle awareness touch the thread, nudging memories, softening fear, allowing hope to take root. The experience filled him with a mix of awe and humility. He was participating in the mechanics of divine mercy. Yet, he was learning that power without understanding could be dangerous. Then came a vision that made his heart pound. Jesus, interacting with an entire city's worth of threads, simultaneously guiding outcomes, repairing timelines, infusing love and clarity into lives he could barely imagine. Fedrick's chest tightened, tears flowed, and he realized with staggering clarity salvation was not a single event in history. It was ongoing, active, nightly, in ways humanity could not perceive. And yet there was more. Something the alien had promised, but not yet shown. A secret about conscious awakening within sleep, about actively participating in reality recalibration, and about glimpsing truths that had been hidden from humanity for millennia. Fedrick's mind reeled as he floated among the threads, the weight of revelation pressing upon him, and he understood that the next steps would require complete trust, humility, and surrender. And as he moved closer to a glowing nexus where threads of destiny pulsed like a living heartbeat, the alien allowed him a final glimpse before the next layer was revealed. A vision of humanity aligned with divine intention, awake within sleep, participating consciously and altering the course of history with precision, compassion, and grace. Fedrick felt awe, fear, and hope surge together. He knew that the coming revelations would challenge everything he had believed about God, about Jesus, about sleep, and about his own place in the universe. And the last thing he felt before the next vision unfolded was a pulse of certainty, deep and radiant. He was being prepared to awaken fully, to see the unseen mechanics of the cosmos and to witness the shaping of destiny itself. Threads of light stretching infinitely into the future, waiting for him to understand and participate. Fedrick felt himself lifted beyond comprehension, beyond even the luminous web of consciousness he had begun to navigate, as though the alien had opened a door into the deepest mechanics of reality itself, a place where time, space, and soul converged into a single, pulsing current of creation. Threads stretched endlessly, connecting every human life, every choice, every prayer, every act of mercy. And yet these connections were not static. They moved, intertwined, repaired, and evolved in a rhythm so intricate it overwhelmed his mind. The alien guided him with a patient, almost tender presence, showing him how to perceive the currents without disturbing them, how to feel the weight of events without being crushed by it, and how to recognize the subtle hand of divine intent that wove through every moment. Then the most astonishing vision unfolded, Jesus, radiant and infinite, moving among the threads, touching memories, aligning choices, healing hearts, and shaping probabilities with a precision and love that transcended human understanding. Fedrick realized with awe that salvation was not a single historical act, but an ongoing, living process, enacted nightly, continuously, across every human soul, every timeline, and every dimension of reality. He watched as human consciousness departed the body in sleep, their threads drawn into this luminous plane for repair, recalibration, and cleansing, and he understood for the first time that what humans called dreams were nothing but static, the residue of consciousness returning to the body, pale echoes of the magnificent work that had occurred. He saw timelines being adjusted, probabilities shifting, memories reordered, emotional wounds healed, and he felt a profound mixture of humility and gratitude. Humans were co-creators in this process, yet largely unaware, while Jesus' radiant consciousness orchestrated the harmony of existence with infinite care. And then the alien guided him to the edge of a vast nexus where the threads of the future pulsed with urgency. Here, he witnessed something both terrifying and breathtaking, the potential for humanity to consciously awaken within sleep, to participate actively in the repair of reality, to touch the threads with intention and compassion. Fedrick felt a shiver of longing and fear. Could he ever reach that level? Could he awaken fully in this realm and see the machinery of God operating with clarity and purpose? The alien communicated reassurance, yes, but only if he surrendered fully, trusted completely, and let go of fear and ego. As he drifted closer to the nexus, he saw threads that shimmered with possibilities yet to be realized, moments where choices could ripple across generations, acts of mercy could prevent suffering, and interventions could alter the course of history. And there, at the very heart of the luminous plane, he saw the ultimate pattern, the divine architecture, a design so immense that it almost broke his mind. The universe itself as a living, breathing mechanism maintained nightly through the departure of consciousness from the physical body, orchestrated by divine will, cosmic order, and the subtle work of advanced beings guiding the flow with precision and love. Fedrick understood that sleep was not rest. It was maintenance, the nightly realignment of reality, the cleansing of emotional wounds, the repair of timelines, and the recalibration of probability to ensure the survival, growth, and redemption of humanity. He felt awe, terror, and gratitude in equal measure, understanding for the first time the depth of God's mercy and the intimacy of divine involvement in every life. Then came the revelation that shook him to his core. Humans were meant to awaken within sleep, to witness, to participate consciously, to align their will with the divine machinery, and to see with clarity the truth behind dreams, visions, and prophecy. He felt a pulse, a luminous current, as though reality itself was inviting him to step forward, to engage, to grasp the sacred task for which he had been prepared his entire life. And then he saw the alien gesture toward a swirling column of light, threads vibrating with intensity, memories and futures intertwining, and Jesus at the center, radiating love and authority. Fedrick felt the weight of destiny pressing upon him, the responsibility of knowing, and yet the beauty of participation flooded him with awe. He understood that humanity's salvation, history, and ongoing evolution were not passive. They were maintained nightly through sleep, guided by divine will, yet reliant upon the choices of conscious beings who had learned to awaken within the luminous plane. And as he floated there, fully immersed in the reality of the unseen, he glimpsed the edges of what would come. Probabilities yet to be realigned, futures yet to be chosen, lives yet to be healed. The alien's presence communicated a silent promise and warning. There was more to see, more to understand, and the revelations would soon become personal, affecting Fedrick in ways that transcended intellect, emotion, and flesh. And in that moment he understood the final, staggering truth of the night. Dreams were not random, sleep was not idle, and consciousness was not bound to the body. Humanity was a living, breathing participant in the mechanics of creation, guided by love, intention, and the presence of Jesus among the threads of existence. And as the threads pulsed, as the luminous currents shimmered, as timelines realigned with subtle perfection, Fedrick felt the first stirrings of awakening, an awareness that he too could participate, could move with intention, could witness the orchestration of reality. And the alien's gaze held him steady, promising the next layer, the deepest truths yet to come, and Fedrick knew with certainty that what he would see next would change everything he believed about God, Jesus, sleep, dreams, and the hidden architecture of the universe. And the last thing he saw before the vision deepened was Jesus touching a thread, and the thread glowed brighter than any Fedrick had ever witnessed. A beacon of mercy, love, and divine purpose, signaling that humanity could awaken, participate, and align with the cosmic plan, and that he, Fedrick, was being chosen to witness it. Fedrick's awareness expanded until he felt as if he were no longer a singular being, but part of the luminous currents themselves, threads of consciousness merging, intertwining, vibrating with the rhythm of creation. the alien guided him to the very heart of the nexus, where the brightest threads converged, pulsing with potential, each one a living record of human thought, choice, and prayer. And there, for the first time, Fedrick saw the full scope of the process. Every night, human consciousness departed the physical vessel, entering this luminous plane, and every action, emotion, and memory was gently examined, repaired, and realigned. He watched as painful memories were untangled, regrets softened, probabilities corrected, and timelines subtly rewritten to guide souls toward growth, understanding, and redemption. The alien's presence was both protective and instructive, teaching him to perceive without disturbing, to feel without imposing, to understand without fear. And then the vision sharpened, revealing the true role of dreams. They were not omens, messages, or figments of imagination. They were the residual noise of consciousness re-entering the body, a pale, imperfect translation of the profound, cosmic work that had taken place. Fedrick felt tears burn his eyes as he realized that the prayers he had whispered, the meditations he had attempted, the faith he had clung to in desperation, had all been threads in this magnificent network, touched nightly by the presence of Jesus, by divine love and meticulous care. And then the alien allowed him to participate actively. Fedrick reached toward a flickering thread, a soul struggling with grief, and felt a gentle current pass through him, realigning memories, soothing pain, guiding the individual toward hope and understanding. The sensation was humbling, terrifying, yet exhilarating. He understood that participation required clarity, intention, and humility, and that every act of repair was both sacred and precise. Jesus appeared beside him in radiant form, touching threads with infinite care, and Fedrick understood that this was the very mechanism of salvation enacted nightly across the human race, unseen, unfathomed, yet intimately real. The alien gestured, and he saw clusters of threads representing entire generations, civilizations, and moments in history being corrected, healed, and guided. Wars softened, relationships mended, tragedies prevented, probabilities shifted toward mercy and growth, and Fedrick felt the immense beauty of a universe sustained by love, order, and intention. Then came the moment of revelation. The alien projected the deepest truth he had yet witnessed, a vision of the architecture of reality itself. Humans were not passive observers, they were co-creators. Sleep was maintenance, a nightly engagement in which consciousness aligned with divine will, repaired the soul, and influenced the flow of destiny. Dreams were the interface, the residue of the process, a bridge between the mortal perception and the machinery of God. Prophets, saints, and mystics had always glimpsed fragments of this work, interpreting them as visions or divine inspiration, yet they had never seen the full scope. And now Fedrick was seeing it all. Threads pulsed with urgency, and he understood that humanity's future depended on conscious participation, on faith aligned with awareness, on the courage to awaken fully during sleep. The alien guided him toward a swirling column of light, where probability, memory, and emotion intersected in a delicate balance. And Fedrick realized that he could step forward not as a passive witness, but as an active participant in the repair and alignment of reality. He touched the threads, and a wave of understanding surged through him. Timeline repair, emotional cleansing, memory rearrangement, probability recalibration. These were not abstract concepts, but the very mechanics of existence, enacted nightly by God, Jesus, and those who had learned to awaken within the luminous plane.
And then he saw the scope, the threads of humanity stretching far into the future, pulsing with possibility, some vulnerable, some resilient, all alive with potential for redemption. Fedrick felt a profound awe, realizing that his own life, choices, and faith had been prepared for this awakening, that his prayers, doubts, and experiences were part of the threads he could now touch consciously. The alien's presence conveyed a silent instruction. Humility, patience, and love were required. Power without understanding could corrupt.
But alignment with divine will brought clarity, purpose, and grace. And then the vision shifted to show Jesus not only guiding individual souls, but orchestrating the flow of entire generations, interacting with probability, choice, and fate, repairing wounds invisible to the human eye, infusing hope and guidance into moments humans would never remember consciously, yet would feel intuitively. Fedrick's chest tightened with the weight of comprehension. Salvation was not a one-time event, but a living, breathing, nightly process, operating across dimensions guided by divine will, love, and precise intention. He felt tears fall as he grasped the immensity of mercy that humans had never fully understood, the intimacy of God's presence in every life, and the sacred responsibility of conscious participation. And then the alien showed him a glimpse of what was to come, probabilities aligned, threads glowing with radiant potential, moments where humanity's conscious engagement could alter destiny in ways profound and lasting. Fedrick's mind reeled with awe and reverence. He understood that faith, sleep, dreams, and consciousness were not separate. They were the mechanics of divine purpose, intertwined and inseparable. And as he floated there, fully immersed in the architecture of creation, he felt a pulse of certainty. The next steps would reveal the deepest truths, the final layer of revelation that would show him not just the mechanics of sleep, not just the role of Jesus, but the destiny of humanity and the way to consciously participate in the sacred work of reality itself. The luminous plane shimmered with infinite potential, threads stretching into the future, waiting for alignment, and Fedrick knew with absolute clarity that he was being prepared to awaken fully, to touch the threads, to witness the flow of divine intention, and to glimpse the secrets hidden from all but the conscious, faithful, and awakened. And the last thing he saw before the vision deepened was a column of radiant light, threads converging, the presence of Jesus at its center, and the alien's eyes conveying both promise and challenge. The final revelation was near, and humanity's destiny awaited those who dared to awaken within the night. Fedrick felt the pull of the luminous plane stronger than ever, his consciousness flowing with the currents of countless human lives, threads stretching infinitely in all directions, each vibrating with possibility, memory, and divine intention. The alien guided him to the very heart of the nexus, where radiant columns of energy converged, pulsating with an intelligence that was both mechanical and profoundly loving, and he understood at last that this was the engine of creation, the nightly maintenance through which God and Jesus healed, repaired, and aligned the course of reality. He saw humans departing their bodies in sleep, their souls drawn into the luminous plane, memories and emotions gently examined, probabilities adjusted, and timelines realigned, and the static of dreams appeared as it truly was, the residue of consciousness returning to the physical vessel, a faint echo of the divine work he was witnessing. Jesus moved among the threads with radiant authority, touching moments of grief, fear, and suffering, guiding them toward hope, mercy, and clarity. And Fedrick felt tears burn his eyes as he realized the immensity of love that humans had never perceived, the intimacy of divine involvement in every life. And then the alien extended a current toward him, and he felt the first true stirrings of conscious participation. He could touch threads, sense imbalance, nudge probabilities, and witness the mechanics of repair with clarity and precision. It was terrifying and exhilarating, the knowledge that even a single touch could alter outcomes across generations. Yet the alien conveyed patience, teaching him to act with humility, love, and intention. He reached toward a thread flickering with instability, a young woman burdened by grief and fear, and as he touched it, memories realigned, pain softened, hope restored. Fedrick realized in awe that this was the very mechanism through which salvation was enacted nightly, unseen by humanity, yet eternal in effect. And then he saw the grand tapestry, civilizations, generations, choices and probabilities flowing like rivers of light, all maintained through the nightly departure of consciousness, all touched by Jesus' radiant awareness, all aligned with divine will and cosmic design. The alien guided him to a higher plane where threads of possibility stretched into the future, shimmering with urgency and potential, and Fedrick understood the deepest truth yet. Humans were not passive observers, they were co-creators. Sleep was maintenance, yes, but conscious awakening within sleep was the ultimate act of faith and participation, allowing souls to witness, guide, and influence reality itself. The threads pulsed with light as he reached toward them, and he felt a wave of awe and responsibility. Every action, every prayer, every act of love could ripple across history when aligned with the divine mechanics he now perceived. Jesus appeared before him in radiant, infinite form, moving among threads with care and authority, and Fedrick felt a surge of humility and reverence, realizing that the Son's influence was constant, meticulous, and infinitely patient. The alien's presence communicated a silent challenge. Awaken fully, participate consciously, and align your will with the mechanics of reality, for humanity's destiny depended on those who could do so. And then he saw it. A thread, unlike any other, glowing brighter than the rest, vibrating with urgency, connected to choices yet to be made, events yet to unfold, possibilities that would shape the future. Fedrick felt a surge of anticipation and fear. The weight of destiny pressed upon him, and he realized that what he was about to witness would alter everything he had believed about faith, life, and the universe. The alien guided him closer, and suddenly he understood the cosmic plan in its entirety. Sleep was not idle rest, dreams were not meaningless, and human consciousness was not confined to the physical body. The nightly departure of the soul allowed the mechanics of reality to operate. Healing wounds, repairing timelines, recalibrating probability, and guiding humanity toward growth, compassion, and redemption. He saw history as a flowing tapestry, shaped not only by events in the waking world, but by the meticulous nightly work of consciousness, the presence of Jesus among the threads, and the conscious participation of those who had learned to awaken within sleep. And then came the vision that struck him to the core: humanity itself, connected, aligned, and aware within the luminous plane, participating consciously in the repair and guidance of reality, co-creators with God in the unfolding of destiny. The alien's gaze conveyed both encouragement and warning. Power without humility could corrupt. Insight without love could fracture, but alignment with divine will allowed awe, mercy, and grace to flow freely across time and space. Fedrick felt tears stream down his face as he understood the intimate mercy at work, the unseen love sustaining every soul, and the sacred responsibility of conscious awareness. And then finally the alien revealed the last secret, the one that had been held back until he was ready. The threads of the future stretched toward a moment of extraordinary consequence, glowing faintly in colors he had never perceived. And Jesus moved deliberately among them, touching, adjusting, guiding, illuminating. Fedrick felt a shiver of both fear and anticipation as he realized that the choices made, the alignment of consciousness, and the participation of awakened humans could alter events not only in the immediate moment, but across decades, shaping history and destiny. The alien gestured, and he felt himself drawn forward, merging with the luminous current, fully awake within the sleep realm, touching threads with clarity, seeing outcomes, feeling the pulse of mercy, and understanding the flow of divine design. And then, as the vision reached its crescendo, he glimpsed something that filled him with awe beyond comprehension. Beings, humans, angels, perhaps something more, rewriting a pattern in the sky, adjusting the course of reality in ways both subtle and monumental, a moment meant for 2027, a choice, a turning point, a possibility that had been prepared for centuries. Fedrick's heart pounded as the alien's presence communicated one final truth. Humanity's salvation, history, and future were ongoing, alive, maintained, nightly, and now he had the opportunity to witness and participate consciously. And in that moment, with the threads of destiny stretching infinitely before him, the pulse of creation vibrating through every fiber of his being, and Jesus' radiant presence guiding the luminous currents, Fedrick understood with absolute clarity that sleep was not rest, dreams were not random, and human consciousness was not confined. He was part of the sacred mechanics of reality itself, a witness to divine order, mercy, and love, and the last thing he saw before the vision faded into anticipation was the beings rewriting something in the sky, something meant for 2027, leaving him with awe, hope, and the certainty that the journey had only just begun.